All right, you guys are all familiar with Leah Thomas, right?
Who's Leah Thomas?
Sounds familiar. Who is
Leah
that?
Thomas is the 22-year-old transgender swimmer that's been competing.
Stanford, right? Is that Stanford?
Yeah.
Competing in the women's division.
Whooping ass.
She's like 6'2", bro.
Yeah, by like
Annihilating records. Beating the fuck out of the other chick.
Because the weightlifter that went to the Olympics bombed out.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
It was Aussie, right?
Nah, this one's like,
Yeah.
this one's like 30, 40 seconds ahead of second place, right?
Like she's like lapping. She's like damn near lapping.
What's the guy and girls time in general? Are the guys that far ahead of the girls?
I do know that. I mean,
because like marathon, it's not.
It's a crazy ass thing, but so recently, Leah Thomas is now the champion of the NCAA women's. If in the men's, I think I read that Leah Thomas's place, if it were the men's league, would be like 550 something.
Whoa.
So dang, that's the difference. Something like
in this
that.
particular event race. Because it's so like event by event.
It's a lot of it like in swimming. It is more advantageous. You have longer limbs,
Sure.
taller. Yeah. So then,
but like the world record, like 100-meter, guy to girls, a huge gap. But the marathon is like a pretty small gap. And then what? Like the ultra crazy marathon, a lady won. Yeah. So like it's so sport dependent. Yeah. It's so sport dependent or event
But
dependent.
in general, most sports, it's dudes, dog.
Dudes are definitely the best. Yeah. You're right, Bart. You're right. Like generally speaking, yeah. You're right. They don't have these. Yeah. You're definitely right, bro.
Yeah, most sports.
It's like, boy, what you're saying is,
Dudes are pretty cool.
they ain't got a dick like this one.
This was a pretty crazy situation because, I mean, everyone's been kind of following how this is going, but now that it's the championship, when Leah Thomas was finishing that last run, everybody was, like, a lot of people were booing. And then once the second place person was finishing, everyone started cheering.
Do we know, and this might be digging a little too deep, I've done a couple interviews and a couple things down this path with sports. And do we know the rules they follow? Because WADA's rules are like something weird. It's like 3 years of surgery and a certain amount of hormone therapy and you're in. And you're good.
Leah Thomas did do the hormone therapy that was required to compete in this way, but then they changed the rules, I think, during.
Yeah.
So it doesn't apply to Leah Thomas, but it will apply to the next.
Did she?
Because I also read that like
so
she
got
was
grandfathered
delaying some of the hormonal therapy that would have slowed her down.
oh, that's interesting.
And I'm like, oh, I don't know. That's so like technical.
That's like reverse steroids.
Yeah, no, it is. Yeah, it is.
But yeah,
It almost sounds like people cheering for the second place. That's like the people's choice first place, right?
Yeah.
That's
The
what
people's champ.
that sounds like.
Dwayne Johnson.
If they're saying like boo and they're like yay,
You're like, top turnbuckle.
even Leah Thomas's own teammates are speaking out against.
One goggle.
because
Leah's smoking them.
Well, I think.
Dude, this is such a hard topic.
Leah
I have
Thomas's
so many
own
ideas.
teammates.
I have so many solutions.
No, I really do. Well, I don't know if I have answers, but like,
Yeah.
they don't take into account a lot of different things that are different between biological males and females. Some call it Q angle, which is where our hips and knees line up. That naturally makes sometimes dudes propel forward a little bit faster, like running. And I don't know much about swimming. The big thing with that is literally ladies' hips are just wider out than their knees. Tons of ladies rip ACLs a lot more than guys, just because that sideways pressure.
they're just like less hydrodynamic.
I don't know about swimming. Yeah, I don't know about swimming, but it's definitely possible.
Dude, there are conversations like lung capacity and stuff like that that come into play.
Ligaments, tendons, even like I don't necessarily know because hormone range with people is so vast. That's why like if you've ever gotten your blood tested, like the natural guy range is like 200 milligrams to like 800.
And all of that's considered normal.
It's all normal, right? But what I do,
Testosterone?
yeah, it's insane.
Yeah.
What I do know is some of the rules with WADA or
World
what's
Anti-Doping
WADA? So WADA's World Anti-Doping Agency.
It's not what Bruce Lee says.
I don't know if I'm allowed to make kind of jokes like that. Yeah, I'll leave that with you.
Trying to get you in trouble.
They set the rules for the Olympics, et cetera, et cetera. The rules they set for transgender competition were set in such a certain way that I believe what's proper term, I don't mean to insult nobody, biologically born woman in Jamaica or maybe Nigeria or somewhere couldn't compete. Because she didn't match these new set of like hormone rules.
Oh, because she had high test, right?
Or something. Yeah, and so she was supposed to be in these last Olympics and she couldn't. Naturally born woman. Because of these, because a lot of it they're just basing, it seems like a surface level base because they're basing it all on hormones and time, which isn't a thing.
It's so weird because the whole point of sports is to let the outliers shine.
Yeah.
Sure.
That's the whole point. Like even with like Usain Bolt, right? Like the
Level
average
playing field.
the average 100-meter sprinter, like the ideal body for a short distance sprint is someone between 5'10", 6 feet, because that's I think the most optimal like
Big pecs, wears green.
like femur length.
Curly hair.
Because sprint is all about how quickly you pick up speed, right? But Usain Bolt, I think they did like an anatomy examination, and where his femur is attached, technically he's like 6'4", so he should be too slow.
He might even be 6'6". He's a monster.
So that's like almost like starting a sprint on the highest gear on like a mountain bike. But because of where it's attached, he can actually accelerate like a 5'10" guy. But then once he hits top speed, he has the 6th gear because of his height. So like the whole point of sports is to distill the outliers, right?
Yeah, Michael Phelps has said similar things, like he's got some fucking webbed toes and you know his dick's like a fin or something. I don't know.
His-
That's a little dorsal.
But that's the whole point of sports is to find the outliers. But it sucks that lady couldn't compete.
Yeah, it's just all weird because there's so many factors that go into it, and so like I don't know if I can like word this correctly, but will the outlier of a natural born woman, the gap between like the most athletic woman and like the least athletic man, and then the most athletic and least athletic transgender, like what does that spectrum look like? Where does it sit?
We don't have enough data.
We have no clue. Because there's so many other there's even like exposure is a huge factor. Like you could be the best swimmer ever and you never touch water. We just don't know because you haven't been exposed to that sport. Right? So like our data is incomplete on all of this. And so they make the rules just based on purely hormones. Because that's one thing you can just blood test. Oh, we got hormones.
I think because there's two conversations going on, right? One is like trying to redefine what these categories of gender is, right? And should be.
Which is like a societal conversation,
Right.
maybe.
And then the other part is now we have the scientific one. Because if you don't have an objective description of what this thing is, like what is this thing? Like is it male? Is it female? What is this being? Even in animals, how do you describe and what do you label this as? And like for example, if we get in a car crash, right, and we die or whatever, you have to still figure out, well, I gotta treat maybe this male different from female. So what is it, right? And then the people that maybe come from the non-binary, genderless camp might be like, well, we're all the same. But it's like, okay, fine, society-wise, maybe, right? Everyone should get the respect. Fine. Let's figure out different names and rules for that. But we still need some type of identifiers for the differences in science. And I think that's basically the two conversations that kind of conflict, because one is a social definition, or like what is the fair, kind way of doing it, or there's gender roles attached with the definition of, with the label of gender, like male is this and that. I'm like, that's a different conversation. But now we put it in athletics, right? And they're like, everyone should be able to compete. Fine, let's take the genderless approach of everyone competes. It's co-ed, whatever. What's going to end up happening is the elite of the elite is going to be the only ones that compete at a high level. Then it's going to be discrimination, because then it's not going to be inclusive toward everyone that maybe want to compete, right? Yeah. But at the highest level, it should be that way.
Yeah, I think you're 100%, because, and I probably agree, like from my own belief and whatever the truth may be, is like gender and all these things, they are fluid in spectrums. Yeah. Sports aren't. So how do we combine them? Sports are made to be rigid binary rules. Yeah. Basketball, you can't dribble with two hands.
True.
Or also,
yes, no, you're not allowed to. Yeah. So like, how do we morph those? Whether it be, maybe sports need to go more societal, or maybe sports need to stay where they are. I don't know. I don't have the answer, but you're right. That's where it gets fucking complicated.
On like for elementary school, right? You want a co-ed group where everyone gets to play, right? But on a high competitive level like the Olympics or maybe professional sports, you want the best of the best, right? Yeah. And it's like, am I gonna be like, oh man, the NBA is so racist because like they'll never let a 5'2" Asian guy play. But it's like
That is racist.
It's like, well, they want the team that's gonna win, so they want all these 7-foot dudes to be in the team, and it's like, duh, right? But are they short phobic? Like, I don't know.
I think that's what it really is. The NBA short phobic, dude.
Well, I guess for that same reason, then it's like, regardless of the gender, it's like if I was a coach of a female swimming team, I'd be like, oh, that's a woman now. Bring her on my team because I need my team to win. You know what I mean? So it's like I think back to like his concept of like binary rules versus like social conversation and time frame. It's funny because sports is one of those things where it's like this very like all-inclusive thing, right? You'll see like nations compete against each other that normally are bickering and during wartime and stuff, but you can come together for sports. So there is this social conversation that does exist there, but then it's like when you're talking about a gender-separated like league or denomination, it's like this is men's basketball or women's volleyball, you know what I mean? Then it's like the second transgender comes into there, it's like that's definitely flirting with like a difference of what the kind of segregation of genders was in the beginning to be able to create rules for, you know what I'm saying? So
It's difficult.
It's such a new concept too.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's also gonna like we're in the Stone Age of this like being a topic. So and how many other transgender athletes do we even hear about?
Those are like the three huge ones, right? Was it Fallon Fox,
Yep.
the UFC chick or MMA chick,
uh-huh.
the weightlifter, I can't remember her name, and then this one. I think those are like the three.
Wasn't there some wrestlers that were collegiate wrestlers that was crushing it?
but I think that's crazy because like imagine like put yourself in the future like 100 years from now, looking back on all of the fucking stats of like the records for like everything, and if those stats are still separated by like men and women, but it's like the number one in all these women categories is like a transgender like form, you know what I mean? It's kind of like what does that mean?
And also, what direction are they going in? Like, are they going in a direction of more rules, or more categories, or less categories? So, like the Nigerian chick, right, that has above the accepted level of testosterone, even though it's natural. Then the next category that makes me think is, okay, even if it's like 2 males or 2 females, then is there a IQ range?
Yeah.
Right? Because that plays into sports like
What's that,
crazy.
Oh shit!
Right? Like court IQ, right? Like you have a guy that's like, oh wait, this guy's way too fucking smart. He breaks plays down like this.
Yeah.
Then you're like, so are people competing in weight classes and IQ and hormone levels?
And
Like
age.
Yeah, like how much do you want to go?
Probably too stupid. One of you guys will know, but it's like a future euphoric world, and they make everybody even that way. So if my legs are stronger, then I
Gattaca?
Gattaca the movie.
No, maybe it's based on the book though. People will know, dude. It's like a fucking stupid famous book, I think. And I'd have to have ankle weights on. And if you're super smart or something, like you'll have like electric shock hit your brain every 15 seconds to slow you down to be on my level. Like shit like that. It evens everybody to the same shit, kind of like you're talking about, in a way.
I'd rather
That's
have
kinda crazy.
less rules and see what happens.
Yeah.
I mean, even at like street racing and car racing, obviously there's cars that are just gonna beat all of them, but they make them gap. They go, okay, you're gonna start way up here.
Sure.
This guy's gonna start way back here.
Legal street racing, right?
Yeah.
That's pretty
And
cool.
it's funny because even the illegal ones do it that way.
Everyone listens to Vin Diesel.
Illegal cats got rules.
They're so progressive.